Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the board meeting. Are there any apologies?
Just Peter.
Peter Pritchard, thank you. I'll move that the apologies be accepted.
Yes, I'll second it.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Carried. We don't appear to have anybody in public forum. Just for the people who are on camera, we are unmasked because there's no one coming in for public forum. Should anybody from the public come in, then we will wear our masks. Thank you. Okay, so
So we've got Lisa and Paul that's on Teams that will be just presenting now.
Thank you. So welcome Lisa and Paul.
Morena.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for taking the time to have a chat to us and for allowing us to present to you. My screen is frozen, so I can't really see what's going on, but I can hear you. I'm just going to share my screen, so I'll just be interested to know if you can actually see or bear with me. So can you see us?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, great. All right. I'm just going to try and share my screen with a presentation that we've got for you this morning.
You can see that. Thank you, Lisa.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Well, I'll get stuck in because I know that we don't have a lot of time. So thank you again. Thank you. Paul and I are working on a project that is essentially turbocharging, and it's a lovely PR word, but we're turbocharging our network investment program. What this involves is Vodafone building the largest 5G network in Aotearoa. And over the next 2 to 3 years, we are either building or upgrading 800 cell sites. We're actually working in regional New Zealand. It's predominantly where most of our upgrades and new sites are taking place. At the moment, we've finished in the Manawatu, Wanganui, King Country region. We've rolled out in the Bay of Plenty, Waiariki, Canterbury and Taranaki, and the Coromandel district is next for us. Your region is scheduled for a late 2022 start with a 2023 finish. Usually takes about 6 to 12 months to plan, design and build these sites, which is why we're starting to talk to you around now. How we're engaging is we're working with local communities through district councils and community boards to ensure we're putting our new cell sites in the best possible locations. This is just a really quick overview, and by the way, this presentation, Donna has got a copy of the final version to share with you. So after this, if you think of any questions outside of this forum, you can give me a call or flick us an email. This just gives you an idea of where these sites are going up, and it does include upgrades as well as new sites. And it's indicative timings of what we're doing. We're actually doing really well given we've had lockdowns and COVID. We're actually on track for delivering this program. The first thing I wanted to just show you really quickly, because I thought this was really interesting, was a traffic growth report from the holiday period, the recent holiday period, summer period. And what I found interesting in it was if you look at Coromandel, your usage or your traffic growth over our mobile network exceeded 100% in the recent Christmas period. In fact, actually, if you look at that, the red and orange there, you stand out quite a lot for your usage. And I know that'll probably be not any real news to you because you know exactly what happens in your district, but it was just really interesting to see it on a graphic like this. And it just shows actually that growth is larger than any other region in New Zealand over the holiday period. So what are we doing in the Thames Coromandel district? And please forgive me, I'm not trying to rush, but I know we don't have long and there'll be a number of questions. So we are planning, we've identified 8 locations that require more coverage and capacity. And capacity is the operative word here. Our sites over just in the last 12 months alone, mobile data usage has increased by 60%. So capacity is a big issue for us. Coverage is usually what is talked about more publicly, because people, as they drive through different areas, you know, their coverage goes in and out. So that's what they tend to focus a lot on. But actually in the Coromandel, capacity is a big issue, which obviously affects coverage. So the locations we're looking at are Kopu, Hukuai, Coromandel Town, Thames, Whitianga, Tairoa, Pawanui and Whangamata. So we've started doing some work around where we need to locate these sites to get optimum capacity and coverage for these towns. And what we wanted to talk to you today is around what we're proposing for Coromandel Town. So I'm just going to get Paul to jump in here. Paul is our site acquisition manager. He's been doing quite a lot of work around these particular sites and looking at locations.
Morning, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the screen that Lisa's got at the moment was prepared by our RF engineer. Basically, where there's the darker orange is where there's good coverage, and good coverage generally means you can get good 4G data indoors. Where there's the lighter yellow, the coverage is more marginal. So while you might be able to get a phone signal, maybe while you're outside, generally the sort of the data speeds of 4G and even sometimes calling, now everything's going over to voice over data rather than the old copper, can be quite poor. So if you go to the next screen, Lisa, the red outlined area is the initial search area we were given, and that's basically just a desktop from the RF engineer saying if we can put something in this sort of area, he'll hopefully be able to achieve what he's trying to achieve. And in this instance, Lisa talked about capacity and coverage. It's sort of a double-edged. They're trying to do both here. They're trying to improve coverage to the north up Rings Road into that valley where the coverage is really poor at the moment. So assuming a lot of our customers have either poor to no signal, but also trying to improve the capacity of the existing network in sort of the busy town centre area. So ideally getting on that, I think it's a bit hard on the screen, but one of the big obstacles is the hill in the top left corner there. Further south, sort of towards the town centre we go, the more of an obstruction that caused. So initially we did look around the police station and the reserve, and there's a little bit of rural land where I've marked it, Kapanga Road. Unfortunately, when we were looking down there, the obstacle, the hill was still an obstacle, and we couldn't get that additional coverage we're trying to achieve up into the north part of Rings Road. We had a good look around at sort of the private, there's obviously a big residential development happening to the south, to the southeast there, and also a bit of rural land further along Edward Street. We approached a few landowners, but unfortunately we couldn't find anything that was going to work on private land. So essentially, 2 areas we've identified are options to put a new pole in the road reserve. Our objective here was to try and put one site that would do the job, so rather than needing to put multiple new infrastructure in.
But also, which road reserve is that, Paul? Are you talking about the one in Edward Street?
So we've identified 2 options. They're marked with the yellow pins. So there's one.
We can't see that very clearly here.
Okay.
The picture's not big enough. So are we talking about Edward Street? Can you just tell me?
Yeah, there's one on the corner of Edward Street and Paget.
Oh, yeah, thank you. That's the one.
And then the other one is sort of towards the end of Albert Street.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the justification for those 2 where they did the job and they've sort of is removed from existing residential properties that we could get with a bit of coverage so that it's not going to hopefully stand out too much. So we're sort of trying to do the visual appeal. The designs, we're trying to stick within the district plan rules. So district plan allows for 15 metres in the road reserve, which we can then do what we need to do and keep within those district plan rules in those locations. So if you go to the next screen, this screen shows the improved coverage with the Paget, corner of Edward and Paget Street site. So you'll see we've all of a sudden got a lot better coverage around that Rings Road area and up and through the valley. And then the next one, Lisa, that's the Edward Street option, so very similar. So our guys were happy that both will do a good job for what we're trying to achieve. So essentially that new orange area, sort of everything north of probably the police station is new coverage or improved coverage. And it'll also from there serve taking a load off our existing sites that cover the whole township area. And the last slide, Lisa. So the picture in this one, you might be able to see that. As Lisa said, we'll give you a soft copy of this so you can get a better view. But that's a 15-metre new pole in the road that we recently deployed in Bowentown. So that's essentially the design of the infrastructure we're talking about. We can paint the cabinets green. We can set it in those locations. There's a good sized road verge, so we can set it back from the road. And as I said, we've chosen spaces that are removed from any individual residential dwelling and hopefully not impede any people's view lines. So essentially, I guess we haven't gone any further than identify those two sites, see that they could work for us, and then we wanted to get any feedback from the community board. Our next steps would be to select one of those sites to move forward with. We'd get a survey done to make sure that there's not any existing services that would stop us being able to build in that location or anything we missed when we did our site visit. We would get plans drawn up, and then we would one thing I missed, we have talked to the roading engineer about both those locations, and in principle he was okay that they weren't going to cause any disruption to the roading infrastructure. So he said he did have a slight preference to the Paget Edward Street, only on that he thought that was easily accessible for maintenance. So the next step would be to get plans drawn up and put a formal notice into council that the council officers that we were intending to do work in the road and install new infrastructure in the road. And then we'd also lodge a RMA application with council to confirm that it's a controlled activity that complies with the district plan. Before we lodge RMA, we would also notify any neighbouring residents or any affected residents that we were planning on installing this infrastructure and lodging a resources consent with council. And then we deal with any questions and concerns with the community as we go through the rest of the process.
So that was our very short presentation, hopefully trying to stick to the timelines. I just thought hopefully we've got some time for you to ask us questions, provide any feedback. We understand if you just want to take this away and dwell on it for a while, and then we come back and talk to you again, or we take some email feedback and really are driven by what you would like to do.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Paul. I mean, I have some questions to ask, but I'll open it up for questions. So John, you're online. If you have any questions, Kim, Jean. So, okay, Kim.
The spot that you've targeted up by, on the road reserve up by Edward Street, you are aware that there's a flooding area up there?
So where we were looking was sort of neighbouring, I think it's a strip of council land on Paget Street. Is that, so it's quite close to the intersection of Paget and Edward.
That triangle piece?
Yeah.
Well, that does flood in there.
Okay.
Just to let you know, it hasn't probably for a few years, but it has in the past.
And is that that's something probably that we'd get into more detail in when we do those site surveys.
Site survey.
Yeah, we hadn't picked it up on the district plan. Yeah, what we would, I mean, the main concern there would be our cabinets, which have got electrical equipment in them. So depending on that risk, what we can do is try and mount them on a concrete plinth. But if it is a regular and a risk, then that would make us think twice about
That site.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. There's two people, Dean and John want to ask questions. So Dean had his hand up first. So
yeah, just on that flood risk, if you look at the Waikato Regional Council website and you Google Coromandel Town flood scheme, there's a flood scheme for the Whangarahi and Kalaka rivers, and you'll find all the detail that you need in there.
Thank you.
John?
Yeah, Lisa and Paul, John Morrissey. Hey, listen, good presentation, guys. Interested to see further information from you. It would be good if you could provide a picture of those things in situ, you know, get a picture as to what they look like and where they would be placed. That would be nice to see. Also, when you've placed these towers in other communities, have you had any adverse reactions? What's the reactions been like in other communities?
Yeah, so sorry, I'll answer that, Paul. And yep, once we just so you say, once we actually get to a site that we think is going to work for us, we definitely do a what do you call it? Sorry, Paul, I've got a bit of brain fog. I'm just coming off the back end of COVID, so if I say anything silly, I'm blaming COVID.
We do a tower communications forum notification letter. So essentially, that's all the other major telcos have agreed a process where whenever we're installing equipment in a residential zoned area or close to residential properties, we'll notify those affected or nearby residents of our intention to do so, and we do that before we lodge our resource consent application. So there is a decent process, and we haven't gone too far down the track.
But as part of that, we do a site simulation that people can see what it's going to look like. Sorry, Paul, that's where I was going.
Oh yeah, so we normally
came to my head.
Site and land plans that'll show an elevation and they show exactly where we're going. What we can do also is a photo, almost like a photo montage that shows sort of an easier conceptualization of what it would look like in that location.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was getting at, Paul. That would be beneficial. I mean, I'm quite keen to see it, you advance it, guys, and see what it looks like. And Lisa, I'm sitting at home at the moment at the tail end of COVID too. That's not at the meeting, so totally understand.
Yeah, my brain's a little bit. So in terms of community pushback, so we've been working through community boards. It's an approach we've taken with all our sites is to before we land on a site is to talk to the community boards. And a classic example of how well this works is the fact that you've told us about possible flooding issues, and that is the sort of local intel we look for, and the fact that the people we're talking to are elected representatives of the community and usually a wide-ranging representation of the community. It's really hard. People ask me all the time, do we go and do community consultation? And we're just honest about this. We don't do consultation. Because we would just never build this infrastructure if we did a consultation process. We do engagement, we do it through the community boards, and we work with the community boards to try and find the best possible location. Have we had pushback?
Can I ask a question about that, Lisa? So yes. You need to stop talking about community consultation to start off with, because what our community needs is all the information that you've given us today, plus more, so we can consult with our community. So we would do that wider communication with the community and then bring the feedback to you. So we would need a lot of information to do that. As you know, you've probably done your research that we had a cell site that was going up here a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. Was just going ahead without any consultation whatsoever, but the site was in the wrong place. So people weren't against the technology. It was about the the placement of it. So that's going to be really important. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the big things about the Paget Edward Street site is because one of the arguments when the Spark were putting in the cell site was regarding the effect on the community, the aesthetic for starters, and placement. So it was placement only for that site, but also, you know, what they look like. I liked what you said about, you know, the cabinets can be green, but I'm wondering about if the Albert Street one is going to be more out of that visual thing that people, I mean, we pride ourselves on being a town that is, you know, heritage. We have a history. And this doesn't fit, something like this doesn't aesthetically fit with our history of it. And we've had a massive public meeting regarding that. So, but if you can show, like, and you've obviously done that, you've investigated other areas rather than the town centre as being a suitable, you know, placement place. Then I can see that the Albert Street one would be much more suitable in terms of aesthetics.
Right.
And if that does work, then I think you'll get more buy-in with this community, because we're very divided about it. And so if we're looking at getting full community input and buy-in, then that's one of the things you're going to have to take into account.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So can I just also answer John's question around community pushback? Because I think I like to be open and transparent about that. So Paul, do you know how many sites we've built so far? Sorry, I should have prepped a bit more for this, but
probably I'd say over 100.
Okay.
Or up in the high, you know, high tens of anyway.
Okay. So looking at that number, and since I've been doing this role, we've probably only had 2 sites where we had real pushback. One of them was in Omakaroa, and it wasn't really community pushback, to be honest. It was just where we were putting the site in that particular street. So I would, and a street is still a community, so I'm loath to say it wasn't a community. It was a particular street. Paul and I went and met with them and sat down and talked it through, and a lot of it was just misunderstanding and some health and safety stuff that people had gone online and gone down a bit of a rabbit warren and had got a bit fearful. We simply directed them to the right information where they could get credible scientific information, and that dealt with all of those issues. And we also explained about locations and why we had to put a site where it needed to be. We have another area in Taranaki. We've just rolled out in Taranaki, and in fact, I'll say there's 3 sites there. In Oakra and Okato, there was an element of the community that didn't want the sites, and again, quite divided, but we're very driven by the health and safety, and it was quite hard to deal with because it was 2 very different polarizing views. So we worked very hard with the community board. The community board supported the site going where it was because they were looking at it from a more wider community view. And one of the things that we did there was we could have put the cell site out in the road reserve, which obviously would not have needed a lease. By right, we could have done that. We didn't. In the end, we entered into a lease with the tennis club there, and we put the site up, and they now get a sum of money each year, which means they don't need to fundraise that. So I think that was a real win for the community, and I know the tennis club were absolutely delighted because it meant that they could not worry about fundraising that money and focus on growth and development of the tennis club. But I'm not going to lie to you, we had 2 very, very different parts of the community, and you talk about dividing. We had some people, we had quite a large portion that supported it, and then another portion that didn't, but they were quite small, but they made quite a lot of noise. So we worked through the community board and the community board chair to get the information out into the community. But I'm going to be honest, at the end of the day, a decision had to be made to put the site there. So we couldn't get 100% community buy-in. It just wasn't possible.
I think the other thing, and the point you raised about the visual simulation, a lot of people jump to the worst case scenario when you say you're installing a cell phone tower, so they'll be thinking of the big one they've seen on the hill from 30 years ago, or a big industrial designed again with the long arms. The photo we showed you earlier of the one in Bartown, that's the sort of infrastructure we're really aiming to install, the slimmest, most aesthetically less disruptive as we can. That'll still do a job, so it doesn't mean that we need to install it all over the place. Yeah.
Sorry, John, you've got another question?
Oh, yeah, just in fairness, looking at the proposed house, nothing like the one that was going to be put in the middle of town, Jan.
I see that. Yeah, I do see that.
This is well outside our heritage area as well, although we do like to maintain that flavour, I know, elsewhere, but it's outside our heritage zone. I'd look forward to you guys progressing it and giving us that photo montage and
Is it worth us continuing forward with both options, or is there one that we should we focus on the Albert Street one given the flood risk? I mean, we'll look into that.
I myself would like to see you go down Albert Street, as Jan, I think it was pointed out. It would be less intrusive, probably create less of a upset in the community, if you like, because there will be people that won't want it. And it won't be for aesthetic reasons or others. It'll be because of some misinformation, which you've already mentioned, that gets out about in the community. That would be the best site, I think, for us to get it through on.
Right.
Okay. That's great.
Can I just ask one more question? I just wanted to know, I don't know if you know, but in your investigations, further from Papaaraha North, there is no reception of anything, not Vodafone, not Spark, not anything. And I'm wondering if we have pretty good reception here in town, etc. I'm just wondering how have you investigated that area in terms of communications and connectivity?
Sorry, what was the area?
We'll just have a look at Google Earth while you're talking. What was it? Sorry.
From Papaaraha North, so that all the northern part of this peninsula has no connection, has no connectivity.
Oh yeah.
Is that RCG area, Paul?
Yeah, I'm just bringing that up.
And I'm just wondering if you take that into account when you're looking at connecting up areas, because even for emergency services, we have to use satellite phone.
Sorry. I know it's pretty challenging terrain up there as well to get that coverage. RCG do have a couple of dots up and then.
So just so you know, while Paul's looking, that it sounds like that area falls outside our area, and it falls under the Rural Connectivity Group funding. Is that correct, Paul?
Yeah.
Which is access through central government, is that what you're saying? And then who would be the provider that central government would?
So they build the tower, and then all three providers would provide service off it.
Yeah.
We don't need to go any further on that. Thank you. I just wanted to just check that if that was part of your brief.
Yeah. But what we can do, just so you know, we can have a little look into that some more and send some information through about RCG. That's no problem. That
would be good. Thank you. Yeah. Does anyone else have any more questions?
No, that was my only other question.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Lisa and Paul, for joining us, and we'll get you'll send the information to us that we need, so that we can start consulting with our community.
Fantastic. And we'll do that quite quickly, just because these sites can take quite a while. So we'll get something through to you as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okey-doke.
So now we should have
So Hadley. Hadley, welcome.
Kia ora, thank you for having me. Hopefully, I'm currently at home in Ngārimu Bay, so the reception on the Thames coast, so the reception can be patchy. Hopefully, and hopefully you can see me.
Yeah.
I'll just try and share my screen. I'm working off a browser, so.
Yep, we can see that.
You can see my screen?
We can see your screen, but not
See you.
Sorry?
We can see your screen, but we cannot see your presentation. We see ourselves.
Okay, let me try again. Is that working?
Yep,
Yes, thank you.
You may want to make it bigger.
Okay, so I understand I have 10 minutes, so I'll get straight into it. Kia ora, and thanks again for your time. So when COVID hit, we were fortunate enough to receive funds from central government to get underway with various projects, including destination management, product development, and industry capability and marketing. The marketing being the latter is something that Destination Coromandel has been tasked with for many years now. But destination management is something that central government and the wider tourism industry want to see regions performing as we, in short, really try to look after the tourism experience a little bit better. So we're probably one of the last regions to actually perform a destination management plan. So we're learning a lot from others and we're underway at this stage. So you'll see a sort of infographic in terms of the timeline for what we hope to achieve. And I have shared this presentation with Donna, Peter and Margaret, who can perhaps pass it on, or if you want to touch base with me, my email address is hadley@thecoromandel.com. And I'm just going to try and, sorry, it looks like it's a PDF, so I'm going to have to. So destination management, really it's all about us being the architects of the future tourism experience in our region. And to do that, we really have to understand what the needs and expectations are of our communities, particularly mana whenua, because they have so much historical knowledge, but also those local residents that have been here for a long time, also non-resident mana whenua, absentee ratepayers and the like. So we're reaching out to a wide community base to get that information. And so far we have done 2 surveys, one being a local business survey and the other one being a community survey. And apologies, I forgot to mention that for those of you who don't know, we also represent the Hauraki district as well under the Coromandel Good for Your Soul. So we've performed those surveys and we've gathered a lot of research, and it's actually interesting listening to Vodafone, and I took a screen grab of their capacity summer shot, and we'll probably reach out to them, but we have a lot of data from different companies, and that's both quantitative and qualitative. A qualitative example is the perception research that you should be able to see on screen there, which notes the reputation of the Good for Your Soul brand. So here's just a few sort of little catch points of what people said, and just a bit of an overview really of some of the high level responses. But you probably won't be surprised in terms of the connection to the natural environment. That's coming through very strongly, and I've actually been through and read the founding document for Tourism Coromandel, which was about 30 years old now, and it's much the same. And also we're going to come across issues such as casual staff required in high season, things like accommodation availability, and your typical tourism challenges like freedom camping or responsible camping and so on. So some of these will be national issues, some of them will be regional issues, and some community issues, and we have actually gone right down to a community level. So we're not just looking at Hauraki, Coromandel, we're looking at specific towns within these areas. So as mentioned, some of the key themes that have come out is natural environment, sustainability, and just on that note, we're in the coming hours, we're about to release a sustainability program, which we hope many of your community will get on board with, and it's very simple but in the start, but it's progressive and ambitious as well. We've got tangible outcomes tied to that, so already we're moving on some of the initiatives here. And just to give you a sneak peek preview, I guess, in terms of that sustainability program, to start off with, it's about trying to encourage everybody who partakes to stop using single-use coffee cups, to remember to switch off all their PowerPoints at the end of the day or end of use, and provide $50 towards their local community conservation group to help save the kiwi, the wider biodiversity, and our natural environment. And beyond that, we've also allocated funds towards one-on-one consultation with sustainable experts, which was the most popular part of our pilot last year. But I digress a bit because that's not part of the DMP, but it is all part of our overall central government fund investment. So here's a little bit of information just in terms of, you'll see a continuum here and the perceived balance of positive and negative impacts for tourism by community. So I guess in some respects, there's no surprise that the likes of Hot Water Beach, Hahei and Karangahaki Gorge feel that tourism can provide too many negative impacts, whereas you've got the likes of Paeroa and Hauraki Plains at the other end, who believe that there's potentially more room for growth or more tourism, with Coromandel Town and North sitting in the middle there. So that's just a really quick snapshot overview of the workshop and of the DMP to date. And as mentioned, we have got a lot of granular data and survey feedback for the specific towns. So we will be holding workshops throughout the towns as part of this process, and we've signed up a company called Versus, who have done similar work for other regions such as Hamilton Waikato, and we'll also have focus groups where they'll be performing one-on-one or interviews with those community members. So at this time, really, it's just an update to let you know what we intend to do, and hopefully we'll have desire from the community board to really get involved and help us shape and determine what the key priorities are for tourism in the future. So I will put myself back on screen now, hopefully. You see me again or just yourselves?
Just ourselves at the moment.
Okay. I'm not sure how to rectify that, and given that time's
There you go.
We've got you now, Kathleen.
Okay. So yeah, that's a very quick overview. But as mentioned, really, it's about us being the architects of and designing the future of the tourism experience here in Hauraki Coromandel, and doing that in consultation with the communities as well. So yeah, we've got a hell of a lot to unpack, and going forward, it's, we won't just be doing marketing as we have in the past, but destination management and product development sort of initiatives. So I could run off the list of the 16 projects that we're doing as part of this, but the destination management plan is the most significant. And yeah, I guess open it to questions if there's any.
Thank you, Hadley. Does anyone have any questions for Hadley? No. John, you have any? No. Okay. Well, no, there's no questions from here, Hadley. Thank you very much for your presentation. Yeah, we look forward to sort of the future, I guess, of rolling out, given some of the issues that we have here. Actually, I do have one question. With the, with your community program, or the programs for each community, are you doing that through the information centres, education through them?
So we'll be going, with respect to the destination management plan, we will be going out through all channels. So the council and the information centres and all the businesses will be going out to our database, much as we will with our sustainability program.
Okay.
Yeah. So the sustainability program, we have an allocation of funds that can support 200 groups to go through that. And it's central to the Coromandel, the fabric of the place and what people understand the Coromandel to be, and we don't want to lose that. We feel like there's a threat of us becoming a homogenous destination. So we want to make sure that we get the 200 businesses on board, and we'd love to see, the single-use coffee cups, for example. We'd love to see Coromandel Town leading that charge. But equally, we know that every town's parochial, and we want to see the rising tides through this program. So to do that and to achieve 200 businesses, we're going to be having to go through information centres, community boards, councils, radio stations, and the like. So yeah, it's exciting times, but there's a lot of work for our team of 4.
Yeah, and we appreciate that, thank you. And as you say about the Coromandel Town have already started the push regarding the cups. So yeah, we're well underway with that. Thank you very much, Hadley. We appreciate you attending.
Fantastic. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.
So Jamie, just need to move in a second.
Okay, all right. Okay, I'd just like to move public forum items be accepted.
I'll second it.
Second. Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Carried. Oh, well, we're on time. Okay, so are there any conflicts of interest today? No. Items not on the agenda?
No.
Okay, the minutes for confirmation, I'd just like to move that the Coromandel-Colville Community Board minutes are confirmed for the, what date was that? 29th of March, as a true and correct record of the meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Oh, anyone against? Carried. Coromandel, okay, item number 2. 2.1, Coromandel 200 artwork. Bubbles, welcome.
Hi, team. My apologies that I can't be there with you today.
It's all right. It's nice to see you anyway.
Thank you. I'm just going to take the report as read and see if the board's got any questions in regard to what's been proposed for the artwork down on Whanarahi Reserve.
Does anybody have any questions?
Who's paying?
Who's paying for this work?
Correct.
That's what the report is about, is asking whether the community board would provide a budget
Yeah.
meet the cost of getting this sorted out.
Okay.
It's pretty urgent that it get done, otherwise it's going to be, all that fabulous work's going to be undone. So we really do need to get that done. Yep, I read the report.
I thought earlier on they were looking at putting a shelter sort of on top. Is that not, they're not thinking about that anymore?
No, not at all, Jane.
Right.
Both the artist and the architect,
Yeah.
Rob Johnson, suggest that that's not the best way to go, and that ultimately it probably wouldn't protect the actual art piece.
Okay,
So
yeah.
this is actually what has been suggested to us by the architect and the artist that will protect it, and the engineers.
John, you have a question?
Yes, this was a little bit unforeseen, but the bottom line is, guys, we do have a great piece of artwork down there. It does need protecting. We have got the funds from the discretionary community board funds to do this. So I'm actually really happy to move the motion as it stands and get this underway.
And I'll second that.
Okay. So I'll read out the any more questions? Okay, I'll read out the resolution. That the board receives the draft 2022-23 annual plan Coromandel-Colville Community Board submission report dated April. I'm sorry, am I reading the right one?
No.
No.
Page 11.
Sorry.
Page 11, Jim.
Yeah. Wrong one. Still on the old minutes. So receives the Coromandel 200 artwork report dated 12th of April 2022. Confirms the budget of up to $7,000 from its discretionary fund to provide weatherproofing and solar lighting for the Coromandel 200 artwork at Whangarahi Reserve. So you're putting that, you're
John, isn't it?
John, you're putting that forward?
I moved that, yes.
Yep, and Jean seconded. All those in favour?
Aye.
Anyone against? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Bubbles. Sorry about that. Okay, next item on the agenda. Okay, notice of motion. Is Bruce online? Although it says, welcome Bruce, thank you.
Morning, board.
Morning.
So just to say that the notice of motion that was put forward, although it was put forward by myself and Peter, it's actually a bit of a moot point because the council have already had the meeting and signed the contract. Maybe I'll ask you to, I'll get you to first and then ask questions.
Okay, no problem. So yeah, so good morning, board. So through the chair, council haven't signed the contract yet, but they did receive a paper in public excluded last week regarding this topic. And whilst I can't go into the details of what was in the paper and what was discussed, the resolution was that they continue with the procurement as proposed and as agreed to last year, I think was the council agreed to it. So they're moving on with the procurement process, which we're currently in the middle of for the series of solid waste contracts. So Jan's point was it's a bit funny with timing, and that Jan's notice of motion is saying let's do something different, but council have actually already signed off last week to carry on doing what they're doing. So yeah, does that make any sense?
Well, it makes sense, but I'm just wondering because before you did send us out an email regarding the new contract that you were going to be signing. So I have a couple of questions about it. Does anybody else? Okay. So, Bruce and I had a conversation yesterday regarding this, and So Bruce, one of the things that I mentioned yesterday was I was wondering about, given that it's been decided that you're going to proceed, and we know pretty much what the contract is, or we do know what it is. I'm just wondering if there's anything in that contract that we can add to it, like a rider of some sort, that can be attached to the contract, or that just says that that maybe there's room for negotiation, or we could negotiate if there are communities, if we come up with something. Well, it's about revisiting what they're doing regarding the waste management.
Right.
And which is it's a lot to do with what Len put forward, and what the reason why the boards were putting in the notice of motion. I don't know if Pawanui and the other boards carried through with their notice of motions, which they were going to do, but getting some sort of rider or something in there that like a central government, like they're already talking about the change in waste management, that's the future of it.
Sure.
So it's about avoiding being locked in for something without any negotiation for 10 years, which is the concern. And that there's room for options, I guess.
Yep. Okay, so through the chair, what I'd say to that is there's always the ability to do variations and change things. Obviously, once you're in a contract, it's quite restrictive and it's quite hard to make those changes, and it can be quite costly because we've asked the contractors to price up an offer of service and how they're going to deliver it, and so they do all their calculations across the term of the contract. So if we start changing things in the middle of the contract, they've basically planned their whole workforce around delivering a certain amount of service and covering all the overheads and those kind of costs. So if we change things mid-flight, that can be quite challenging. I guess the thing is that we've gone through quite we've gone through a very robust process. We're not all the way through it yet, but we have it's been an open process. So the community groups have been able to get involved and try and work with contractors if they want to get involved in operating things. And again, I can't go into the details of that report that went to council, but there's quite a number of reasons why staff recommended to council that we continue with the process we're going through at the moment. And council, they had quite a robust discussion about that. We had lots of questions, and in the end, they went with the recommendation that we carry on with that. Now, one thing I would say is that we've pushed it pretty hard with all the contractors who are tendering for this work, that we expect and want to see how they're going to work with community groups and make sure that community groups are involved in the way we're managing our solid waste activities, particularly at transfer stations. So the contractors have all picked up on that. It's not unusual, obviously, around the whole country. We're starting to try and do things differently in solid waste, and obviously a lot more community involvement in that. So I'm comfortable that we'll have community involvement in one form or another. The other point I'd pick up on, Jan, is your comment about government wanting to change things. So you're right, government have signalled a number of changes moving forwards. Any legislative changes, obviously that's a much easier way. If it's come from legislation, we can then come into the over the top of the contract and make those changes to respond to legislative changes. You still end up having to do compensate the contractors if you change the contract significantly. But you know, there's ways of doing that, I suppose, is what I'd say. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if there's too much else I can say. I've got Anna Stevens, our solid waste manager, on the line. So Anna, if you do have anything else to add, jump in. If not, that's no problem. Not trying to put you on the spot there.
Yeah, good morning. No, I think you've covered off really well, Bruce. I don't have anything further to add to that. I think it's covered off well.
Dean?
Yeah, just through the chair, you raised a question around the Tairua Pauanui and Whangamata resolutions. So just to confirm that they were made by Tairua Pauanui and Whangamata, very similar to what you've got there, and they were accepted as part of the council meeting on the 3rd of May. So it was in that agenda pack.
Okay.
Through Chair, I thought I did remove one of the points, it was point 2, so that's just a little bit different, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you talked about Bruce, with it going, once you've signed a contract, of course, you know, and if you make any changes to it, I think that's was part of my suggestion about flagging something now, about the possibility, so that it's kind of like, well, we're going to be looking at, there could be some changes.
Understand what you're saying. So through the chair, what I'd say to that is that we're probably too late in the process for that. But the other thing I'd say is that if you flag anything like that when you're going through a procurement process, what that does is the contractors then have to price in a whole lot of risk because of the uncertainty that we create by flagging something where we can't give any definition. They then have to kind of price that in because they think, okay, if we get this contract and council have written in this this very flexible clause, we really don't know where we're going, and so then they really have to price in the risk to be able to respond to those changes. Otherwise, they can get caught out. So it's always a challenge between making sure you've got, you know, flexibility. That would be ideal, but there's also the certainty and the you know, the consistency across what the contractors are doing, and so there's always a bit of a balance between those. So yeah, it is a challenging situation.
Yeah. Okay. I understand that now. Yeah. So I mean, maybe so the thing with a central government introduces policy.
Yeah.
I guess, is that just inbuilt into the contract then?
So it's not inbuilt, but certain things are kind of, if the legislative change happens, the contractors obviously have to move with that change. They can't say, no, we're not going to do it. So, okay. But again, they have to be fairly compensated for it. So if the government came up with a change to solid waste that that was very, very expensive to do, the contractors don't have to, they have to move to that, but they obviously have to be fairly compensated by council. So we'd go through a variation process as a result of the legislative change, but we would have to compensate them for those costs. So they'd have to price up those costs, the additional costs, they'd submit them to us. We'd probably get someone external to review them and say, okay, is this good value for money? We're not getting, you know, we're not getting ripped off or anything. And then we'd make the change to the contract. So that's the kind of level of flexibility that does exist in contracts. Yeah, which isn't a huge amount of flexibility, I suppose, if we're being honest.
No. I mean, they must, surely companies like that must have insurance anyway for that type of thing, do they?
Not really, not for that kind of changes to contracts, because they're very expensive. Because again, the insurer would then try and pick up. They'd have to carry that risk. So then they'd be charging some very high premiums. So it's a challenging environment from that perspective. We've got to provide certainty. I'm confident that we're heading in the right direction and that we'll see some great interactions with community groups and our contractors. Anna's nodding, which is positive. So because Anna's kind of involved in more of the detail, obviously, around the procurement process, along with Mo, our infrastructure manager, and a couple of other staff. So yeah, I'm confident we're heading in the right direction, but there is a little bit of just wait and see.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I mean, you've all done, like you, Bruce, Anna, and Mo, have done fantastic work around this. I know it's been a lot of hard work and a long grind for you.
Yeah.
So that is really appreciated. Just
okay. Thanks, Jen. Appreciate you saying that.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody?
No, all good.
Okay. Thank you very much, both of you.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Okay.
You need to decide what you're going to do with your notice of motion.
Do I? Okay.
Otherwise, it will just be received and lapse. Or do you want to continue?
No, I don't. No, I don't see the point. It's been tabled, I guess, and so then it's just.
We just need a mover and a seconder to receive the notice of motion.
Okie doke.
And then maybe the resolution, we should probably just.
Okay, so we receive. Okay, so I'll go through the resolutions. So, receive that the board receives the notice of motion management of refuse transfer stations report dated 31st of March 2022. considers the notice of motion that the Coromandel-Colville Community Board support. Oh, no, that's,
Yeah,
no.
You
Just
want to receive it.
Yeah, just we want, yeah, receive it. So I'll move that we receive it, that we receive the notice. Oh, can I do that? It's my motion.
Well, you've put it forward so you can actually move it, but you can't second it.
I can second it.
You're just receiving it.
Okay. All those in favour?
Aye.
Anyone against? Carried. Thank you. Request to retain the 2021-22 Coromandel Community Board grant, Upper Coromandel Forest and Bird. Bubbles.
Yes, thank you. It's pretty straightforward.
Yep.
Obviously, you provided a grant to Forest and Bird due to weather, COVID, and a whole lot of other things. They've not been actually able to do the planting. They don't feel like they will have completed it by the 30th of June, which is when the cutoff is. So they're basically asking if they can retain the funds. They still intend to do the work and just asking for a rollover.
Yeah.
Happy to move the motion.
So the board receives the request to retain the 2021-22 Community Board grant up for the Upper Coromandel Forest and Bird report dated 14th of April 2022, approves the retention of the $3,000 from the 21-22 community grants provided to the Forest and Bird for the purpose of purchasing plants for the restoration of a coastal reserve on the slopes above Torrehina Bay. That's it, isn't it? Would somebody like to move that?
I'll move it.
Moved by Kim, second June. Thank you. All those in favour?
Right.
Carried. Oh, against? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bubbles. The rates remission request from Coromandel from community groups occupying council-owned property. Judy.
Good morning, board.
Good morning.
Just through the chair, this is a follow-on report that came through to council in August last year, and so we have actually approached the community boards that were actually the community board members or groups that actually were able to apply for if they had a remission available for them, and there was one community group that actually come back, which was the Spirit of Coromandel. They do actually qualify for a 100% remission on the property. They only lease 94% of that property, so the amount that would be proposed for remission would be the $1,027.16. So we're just come to the board to seek your approval for that.
Yep. Does anyone have any questions for Judy regarding that? No. I mean, we've read it, Judy. Thank you very much. I think we'd all be for that occurring, definitely.
Wonderful. So this will, now that we've got the, most of the community groups that have actually applied that can qualify for this remission, it is a 3-year remission, as you may be aware. So this will not be brought back to the council or to yourselves at the community board level for another sort of 2.5 years. And then we will make sure that we've had that initial correspondence out to all the groups so that they're aware, and we can get it all on one report to you rather than staggering it across as we have this time. So next time we come to you, it'll be all the groups that qualify and will apply in one go.
Fantastic, thank you. So the board receives, the resolution is, the board receives the rates remission request from community groups occupying council-owned property report dated 25th of March 2022. And it approves the following rates remissions under council's rate remissions policy for community, sporting and other non-profit organisations occupying a rating unit owned by council under a lease agreement. The community group is the Spirit of Coromandel Trust, which is the bike park, and the amount of remission is $1,027.16. And the board approves 100% remission for that current rating year, and the years 22, 23 and 23, 24 rating years on the general rate, UAGC and targeted rates, except for targeted rates on water, waste, solid waste and loan charges for community groups listed in resolution 2. Do we need to?
So I think you need to make a decision whether it's 100% remission.
Yeah, or
yes.
Decline the request. Yeah. Well, 100%. 100%. Yeah, 100%. John, you're.
Yep, I'm fine. 100% is fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you. So that's we receive that, and with motion number 3 or resolution number 3 is the one. Thank you. I'll put that forward. Second. Kim, second. All those in favour?
Aye.
Anyone against? Carried. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for your time, Board.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Doke, 3.2. How am I doing? Andrew, welcome.
Thank you, Jo. Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
Morning.
Any queries on the work programme?
I made a note of one. Yes. Just the ride, the Coromandel bike park, there was working on developing a memorial site in recognition of the late Keith Stevenson. What a wonderful, wonderful idea. So that's under investigation at the moment.
I believe so, yes.
So who are you working with on regarding that, Andrew?
I'm not sure at the moment, Jan, to be honest with you. I'm not on this project at the moment, but I can find out and let you know.
Oh, well, it's okay. It's just, it would be good for the board to know, and if we can give support regarding.
If I could just chip in.
Yep.
This is actually the Spirit of Coromandel Trust is leading all of this, Jan.
Oh, okay.
They are the ones, and they have been working with council because obviously it is a site that has had to be rehabilitated because it was the landfill. So that's really our only input, is making sure that what they're doing meets the requirements of a landfill.
Okay.
So this is Spirit of Coromandel Trust project.
Okie doke. Thank you. Thank you. The other one I had was just about the bypass.
Yes, the consultation with the rugby club has been completed, and there's a follow-up meeting with them in a couple of weeks on a Sunday with Ed Varley, and the consultation planned for mid-May. The paper email-based consultation will happen on the 23rd of May. 23rd of May, okay.
Thank you. Do you know whether it was quite a positive thing with what they did with the rugby club?
I believe so. Ed Varley, our roadie manager, was at the vanguard of that, and I believe that the people who were there asked for a follow-up meeting on the 23rd, on a Sunday, so they could consult with other members of the club. So I believe it was quite positive, yeah.
Good. No, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any questions for Andrew?
Could I just provide you with an update on Tekuma Road?
Yeah, yes. That'd be great.
I've been in council now 5 years, and this is the most challenging project that I've come across. we're having significant issues with NZTA on what they require us to do to the road, and we've elevated the issues that we've come up against to the mayor, who's met with a senior manager in NZTA to try and resolve the situation. NZTA basically want us to upgrade the state highway at our expense, which is totally unacceptable and will completely destroy, for want of a better word, our budget. It's a geotechnical issue, and we're hoping that we've had some slightly positive news last week from NZTA. We cannot move forward with the local landowners and with iwi until the issues are resolved and we know exactly what the scope is and that it matches our budget, which has now been pushed forward into next year. If you've seen the completion date on the work programme on June 2024, that is not a typo, that is realistic. And once we've got NZTA resolved, we will then push ahead with the local landowners and with iwi. We've got a meeting set up with iwi on either the 19th or 20th of this month to run through the scope of the project, so they are very aware. So we are moving forward with this project, but it is an extremely slow pace at the moment. All right.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, it's very challenging. Any other questions, anyone?
Any more questions? No, that's it. Thank you very much, Andrew. Appreciate
Thank you, board.
it.
That'll be challenging until somebody gets killed.
Yeah, well,
it's not going to be far away.
I know.
You see the skid marks there now?
Yes.
We just need to receive and second it.
Oh, we just need to, oh yeah, we do too. Okay. Right, so I'd like to, the board receives the Coromandel-Colville work programme and other information updates report dated 31st of March 2022. Jean will move that. Second?
I'll second it.
Kim, all those in favour?
Aye.
Carried. No, anyone against? Carried. Getting to sleep. Thank you. Now the action schedule. So, does anybody have any questions on the action schedule? I do. Okay. Okay, so the public forum petition, the one that's ongoing and Roding's involved, Tracy Kendall has written to Ed twice, and I have also written to him regarding signage, because I mean the whole safety barrier thing is progressing, but what we wanted was some signage. What was wanted was some signage up on that corner, because it's going to take at least 2 years before the safety barriers can go. So just like to, well, first of all, not being responded to has been difficult for Tracy and myself, I have to say. Not with no response whatsoever to the emails that have been sent regarding safety, not the safety barriers, but signage as to go up, because it's going to take so long. So I guess the issue there is about communication. How, if we're not being, if people aren't being responded to, what's the forum then for getting response to communications? and I'm saying this about the barriers, sorry, the signage thing. So Ed's not here, so I guess we can't ask.
I will follow that. Oh, Bruce is online.
Hello.
Sorry,
Hello. So I don't have an answer, but I'll quickly grab Ed. So Ed is sitting right next to me. He didn't really pick up all that stuff you're talking about, but so yeah, sorry about that. But Ed is right here, so there he is.
Okay. Hello, Ed. Welcome.
Good morning. Could I have a brief recap what we were talking about?
Okay, so I just said about the signage up at Waititi Colville Road corner. Some new other signage going in. I know that you're working on the barriers, but both Tracy and myself have emailed you and have had no response regarding getting some signage in as an interim or now until barriers can be put. So there is some signage north and south of indicating that there's a sharp corner, but what we're talking about was an arrow at the corner with a speed limit on it.
From memory, and I'd have to double check this, the solution that we've got, or the solution that I sent to both yourself and to Tracy, I think is the customer's name, described the works not as barriers. First of all, we're not using barriers, we're using an earth mound system, but in that email I did actually say that there was no intention to alter the current signing at the moment as part of that works until such time as the works are in, and we can then actually review what the look of the thing is afterwards. So I'd have to double check my emails on that.
So both Tracy and I have written to you since that, and we accepted that. And as I say, it's not about the barriers; it's about as an interim, because it's going to take so long before the bund or whatever it is that's going up the barrier is a higher visibility signage on the corner itself. So that you see it approaching.
I don't recall those emails.
We'll go and follow up and have a look and check up on those emails, Jan. That's fine.
Okay.
And obviously we want to expedite it as quick as we can, but yeah, we'll go and have another look back at those emails, and we can come back to you. If there's something we've missed, then that's fine. We could take that on the chin and come back to you.
Yeah, okay, so it's not something you've missed, it's something that you've actually said that you won't, that you see is not necessary. And so both Tracy and I addressed that decision, basically, that it's not okay that that decision was made when this is what was asked for by a lot of the, all of the community in that area, the Colville North and Colville South community.
Understand. One thing you missed, Ed, before was Jan was saying it's going to take 2 years to get anything done there. Is that correct? The time frame?
That's not the time frame I'm anticipating.
Yeah.
I've been speaking with the contractors, and my understanding is that we're trying to get this done by the end of the financial year. So I'm not sure 2 year period came from.
Okay, so that's good. Okay, that's good.
I hope we'd have something there.
So that's June, the end of the financial period. So that means we're looking at doing it within that. Okay, well then I take that back then, that I didn't realise that was the time frame of it. Certainly hadn't been informed that that was going to be the time frame for that bund.
Okay, well we'll go back and have a double check and make sure if there's anything to re-communicate and get back out to you and Tracy, we can do that, Jan. So and like I say, apologies again if we've missed an email that's come through and we haven't spotted it in amongst all the others, but we'll go and revisit those and come back to you with any more details that we need to.
Great, thank you very much.
No problem.
That's good. The only other one I had was the public forum following public forum, the community board were asked to review their stance on the use of 1080 or other residual poisons in the Coromandel-Colville area. And the commentary was, it says in progress, direction is sought from the community board if it wishes to make any amendments or otherwise. How does one go about making that direction? Because what we discovered in public forum is how divided our community is on this, and that we weren't fully representing our community. The community didn't feel fully represented, and so we thought one of the discussions that came out of it was that we need to look at, it's not about our stance, but looking at the future of our community, of the biodiversity, and therefore be looking at inviting all people in, if that's the word, or encompassing all groups as to the management of our pest control in the future in our community. Instead of making a standout thing, we're against 1080, which caused so much controversy and our community saw us as being divided. We look at the future of that in our community. I'm trying to say, what does this mean when it's on our work thing? Direction is sought from the community board. It wishes to, if it wishes to make any amendments or otherwise. What does that mean? If we make an amendment to our stance, is that what it means? John.
Yeah, and it's in my opinion, it's just merely there for us to consider whether we want to change anything. We have a policy in place that's been there for Bubbles. What would it be? 15 years. Mm-hmm. And no matter what we do, we're plus 15 years. That policy's been around. No matter what we do, if we go out to the community, it's going to be a divided response we get back. That policy seems to have served us well for the last 15 plus years, and I'm actually happy to leave it as it is.
Okay, thanks, John. I mean, I don't think it's about the policy as such. I think it's about what our community, what we are representing, whether we are representative of our community. So 15 years is a very long time, and a lot has happened in 15 years. And
I don't think you'll ever be able to represent the community on this particular issue, Jan, in its entirety. You're always going to have division. You can go out if you like again for consultation and what have you. You will get a very good argument from both sides of the fence as to their views, and it would be impossible for the community board to reflect that in any decision. So I can't see the point in actually rehashing this, to be honest with you. I just think you're going to create a large problem for yourself.
And I totally agree in that respect, but I'm saying what our stance should be is for biodiversity in our community rather than looking at the tools that are in the box for pest control or because that's what we're looking for is the future of our community or our flora and fauna. 1080 is one of the tools in the box. Whether we're for it or against it is not what we should be making a stance against. It's acknowledging it's one of the tools in the box. It doesn't matter what my own personal feelings are or what have you. Our community has told us that this should not be our stance, that this is not the stance of the community.
No, some members of the community have said that, Jan.
Yes. Some people in the community have said that, but what I'm saying is we're not.
I'm like you. I am not going to take a stance for or against 1080 because there are a lot smarter people out there than me that have different views. All I'm saying is this something that we actually really need to be dealing with or not? And that's the decision.
I agree. We shouldn't be dealing with it. We should be looking at what our policy is regarding pest control or the biodiversity in our community, rather than focusing on 1080, is what I want to say.
At the time that this was done, I was on community board back then, and this was the feeling of the public that came to us. So that's why we went with it, and it hasn't been changed.
No.
And it's not about how many different options there was. There was then, but it was focused on the use of 1080, and that's what it's all about, is the focus of 1080, not trapping and other means of pest eradication. That's two totally different things. So it's either we go out to consultation and ask the public what our stance should be on 1080, because that's what it's about. It's about the use of 1080, not other things. We're getting the two things mixed up.
But why would we have a stance? We're not scientists, we're not.
But that's what it was back 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Or thereabouts.
I think I'm, okay. Yep, I'll drop it.
So through the chair, just to make it clear, should that action be removed from the action schedule?
What do people think?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So somebody wants to move that?
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Anyone against? Me? I'm against. Carried. Okay. Any other questions about the action schedule? No. Okay, so that the board receive, the resolution is that the board receives the action schedule report dated 12th of April 2022.
Yep.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Sorry. Right. Okay. We've done that. Members' reports.
Nothing from me. Nothing. Very quiet.
Okay. I've got a couple of things. The information centre, it's Sandra's last day tomorrow. She's been an amazing person at our information centre. They're employing 3 people to now, it's kind of restructured. We've just employed, they have just employed Sue Namani as one of the workers. And there's going to be 2 other people who are going to be job sharing Sandra's, what was Sandra's role, splitting up the job into 2 different things. It's the same hours, the information centre will be open the same hours, and it's just the different roles within it is going to take 2 different people, 2 people to do that. So that's all happening and fantastic. I did the trap line with Rain Williams up the back of the hospital and all round up the back up Driving Creek and all round. It took us 4 hours. I'm not terribly fit, but it was amazing to see just what they do for pest control. It's very steep terrain. It's wide, but every, so many metres they have traps, etc. They record everything. So, yeah, and so it's all, they use poisons, but they use poisons within traps only. They don't spread poison. It's a fantastic program they've got, and they work in with Driving Creek with their program as well. So they're doing it as best they possibly can, and but it takes up right up to Tokatea, right down around. It's huge. So I only did 4 hours. So, and they do that all the time. It's constant. So the one I did, they do every 2 weeks, and so they're constantly doing the rest of it. So it's well worth going. There's a meeting in Whirianga tomorrow night regarding predator-free on the peninsula. There's a woman speaking. So I'm going to go to that to just try and get some more information. And I had a meeting with the landowners at Long Bay regarding land and wetland. Now I will bring a report to the board about that because Marilyn sent out the challenge to all of us to come and have to come and view what, since the gate had been removed, what had happened. So I went and met with her, but because I was going to Taupo the next day for a holiday and didn't get back till last night, I haven't been able to meet with the wetland people or the other people to do a full and complete report. So I'll hold that until next time. That's me with my report. John? Do you have anything to report?
Council's been pretty busy over the last little while. I think I was down there 4 days last week for hearings alone. We're moving through the CEO appointment process as we speak. I've been on a panel with Sandra Gowdy and 2 other councillors shortlisting applicants. Full council meets on Friday to interview the last 3 and from there hopefully make the appointment.
Thank you, John. Okey-doke. The board, the resolution is that the board receives the members' reports dated 31st of March 2022. All those in favour? No, second. 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 All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Accepted. Thank you. And that's the end of our board meeting. Thank you very much, everybody. John, can you stay on, please?
Yep.
Because